Alright, welcome back to the Game Smash podcast. As always, I'm your host, William Liberty, and with me is...
Muhammad Yusuf.
And today we're going to be talking about what we played this week. This week, I played a game called This War of Mine. And, yeah... Yeah, this game's pretty heavy. It's basically, you take control of a couple of survivors, and your goal is to kind of go out on like little scavenging missions and collect resources and stuff like that. And you build up your little like shitty apartment place that you're kind of like surviving in, right?
Okay.
And it's because you're just a bunch of survivors while a war is going on. And it's very atmospheric, and it's really, really interesting. And like there's mechanics where like your characters can get depressed. So even going on a scavenging mission and finding a guitar to just so that they have something to play is actually very, very important, because it will help increase their morale and their mood. Because like for example, I was playing and I actually got one of my characters killed because he was searching in an area that was kind of being guarded by bandits, and then the bandits shot him. And then when I came back, my group was super depressed and sad. And when they're depressed, they don't move as fast. So all the jobs you can get them to do, they do a lot slower. So, and it was really interesting, but was it making me really depressed. So I was like, oh man, I want to go back to Darkest Dungeon. At least that game's bright and colorful in comparison. But anyway, that's what I played this week. So what about you, Fawaz?
Okay, I'm gonna have you guess what I've been playing this week.
I'm gonna go Hearthstone.
No. So, Hollow Man be too long.
Oh, derp. Yeah, derp. I should have realized that.
Yeah, so I've been playing that primarily, and it's pretty fun, you know. Yeah, they added this new, because in the old Hotline Miami, you used masks, right? Different masks give you different abilities, very subtle abilities, you know, like you start a specific weapon this time, you walk a little faster this time, but not add different characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some characters are just your basic, you know, jacket type characters, but then some of them are really unique. Like right now, my favorite characters, these two brother and sister. You control, one of them has a chainsaw, and one has a gun, and you control both of them at the same time. So how it is that you move the chainsaw one, and then when you aim the one with the gun. So it's really cool, and it's really fun. Most of the characters' special abilities are very subtle and stuff that you rarely ever use, but overall it's fun. One thing though is that they increase the size of the levels for some odd reason.
Mm-hmm.
So like you die from off-screen enemies a lot more now.
Okay.
So it gets really frustrating sometimes. I actually got to a level that I was just like, you know what? And the level was really long, because most levels, like the longest levels in the old Hotline Miami, were like 3 sections, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You clear one section, clear another section, clear the third section, game over. I was in one with 4 sections, and each section was really long. I was just like, you know what? I don't care right now, so I just quit. And I was like, I'll try and beat this level another day, because this is just so frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you pair really, really big levels with one-shot kills, and it's a lot more glass, because the enemies can't see you through the wall, can see you through glass windows, right?
Yeah.
and this game has a lot more glass windows than other games. So it's just like you're just afraid to move because it's like you move this way, there's an enemy over there, like a few
Hmm.
feet over there, there's an
Yeah.
enemy. It was a really frustrating level. But hopefully, if I beat that level, the rest of the game isn't the same. The other thing I've been playing is Helldivers. Well, I've been trying to play Helldivers. The game is still broken as shit. But hey, they announced DLC today, so that's nice.
Yeah. So
I
there you
paid
go.
$20 for it, and is it working properly? But hey, sure, I'll pay $10. I'll pay $5 for a little more DLC on the side. Anyway, that's what I've been
Nice,
playing.
nice. Overall, pretty interesting. So let's just dive into some news. Right now, we're gonna be talking about Titanfall. Titanfall DLC is going free. And Titanfall 2 got announced. So, what do you think about Titanfall DLC going free? Permanently.
I like it. I definitely like it. One thing of note is that when they announced Titanfall 2, they mentioned that one thing they would like to change, they haven't stated whether or not they will change it, is that they want to copy Evolve's DLC method where all the maps are free. So
Oh,
the fact that the old Titanfall's DLC is going free is a nice step in that direction. I'm not sure if they'll go through with it. Wanting to make stuff free and actually making it free is two completely different things. But
yeah.
I do like the fact that the DLC is going free. It'll because Titanfall's community apparently has been dwindling. I never bought it,
Hmm.
so I don't know. And it's been a little splintered because you've got a bunch of different playlists, and then you've got people that can go on this playlist, have these maps. So this
Hmm.
definitely helps. I'm all for free maps especially because in a multiplayer game, when you have to charge for the maps, it does splinter the community. Yeah. What about
Hmm.
you?
Well, I was just kind of interesting. I wanted to point out when you're talking about they wanted to follow Evolve's DLC structure. It's like, yeah, you really want to follow what they did, all the shenanigans, and it's like,
Specifically the map.
yeah, yeah. But I just thought it was really funny. It's like, oh, Evolve's DLC structure really inspired us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like obviously, I do agree with you. When maps are paid DLC, it does like splinter the community, and it's usually better when the maps themselves are free because then everyone gets to play on them, which is just better
Yeah.
for everyone else. So I do like that. I think that's gonna be good. I think the idea of the DLC going free is probably a good idea considering that the popularity of Titanfall has fallen down a little bit. So it's probably going to get a couple other people more interested in the game and stuff like that. So that's always
Yeah.
good. And from what I've seen and from what I've played is that the game overall is really smooth and and
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited for Titanfall 2 because it's going to be available for all the consoles.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so good to know. And I'm just glad that I like it when DLC goes free
Yeah.
because free
What would you
things.
like to see in Titanfall 2?
Yeah. But other than that,
No,
another
no. I
what?
said, what would you like to see Titanfall 2?
Oh, in Titanfall 2.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to think. I would
Okay,
like
I'll
to.
go first.
I would. Okay, you go first. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah. Yeah. Personally, for one, I'd like to see an actual story mode.
think.
I think a story mode would be nice. I'm not even um because as much as it was probably for multiplayer that kept me playing, the single player, I mean, there were just so many really memorable moments from the single player, and so I definitely like to see a single player, and I'd like to see something like the Black Ops mode from Modern Warfare 2,
Hmm.
where it was like a bunch of self-contained, um, really really quick scenarios that you could play with a friend, and they were very unique, and I'd like to see something like that, especially in a game like Titanfall where you also have the added element of mechs. So I like to see that. One thing I don't want to see is I hope they don't get to uh, one mistake I think Call of Duty made was it 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 got too complicated. Call of Duty
Mm-hmm.
4 was simple. You had your
Yeah.
three kill streaks, you had your weapon, you had your sidearm, and you had your three perks. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it got a little too. I mean, you added kills, they added death streaks, they added like 15 different kill streaks. They added I hope they don't get too complicated because Titanfall is already. I mean, you've got your loadouts, you
Yeah.
have a second weapon, your perk, and this other thing that's like a passive. You've
Mm-hmm.
got your anti-Titan weapon, and then you've got your Titan. And then on top of your Titan has a primary weapon. It's got a secondary like ability. It's got oh my God, it's got some perks. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's I hope they don't get too complicated.
Yeah.
I hope they don't add like 10 Titans and a bunch of other shit like that. So, that's pretty much
Yeah.
what I'd like to see from a sequel. What about you?
Well, basically I agree with you. I'd love to see more Titans. Keep the formula simple, because overcomplicating the system that they've already started would probably be a bad thing. But
Yeah.
overall, yeah, I would just like to see more Titans, and I don't know. I would like to see more level designs that really utilize like the wall jumping even more, like stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like that's probably one of its highest best features is that wall jumping mechanic, and
Yeah.
that's I want to see more of that. So some more interesting level design around that as well. But yeah, I and like just overall more maps, more Titans, and that's all I really want, But for a sequel, just as long as they don't overcomplicate it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's basically what I'm hoping for. So moving on from that, we got Adrift, which is this it got some gameplay released for it, and from what I could tell, it's kind of a game where you float around in a zero-G space station, kind of figuring out what the hell happened or something like that. And it's interesting because you and me, we had both different takeouts from what we saw from the game. I'll start with what I saw. I liked it. I thought it was interesting because I love zero G. I love the zero G levels from Dead Space. I thought they were some of the best parts of the game. So obviously, seeing a game kind of centered around zero G is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah.
And it was very atmospheric. Like I will agree with you. It's like not a whole lot happens in the trailer. Like the guy just floats around, grabs a couple of canisters, and then leaves. But I liked the fact that it was very atmospheric and nothing really happened, and it just looked really really cool and interesting. Especially since it's like as much as I said Alien Isolation was an okay game. It's like this looks like okay. This looks more interesting to me than that. Because I want that zero G space station experience. And I think there is combat in it because I think you can pick up things and throw them from what I could tell in the demo. So it would be interesting to see how that would work later on in the game. But what did you take from this, Waz?
I Yeah, Gravity. It looked like a video game for Gravity, which is I love Gravity the movie, but
Mm-hmm.
watching the gameplay of this game, I was just bored.
Mm-hmm.
I was just bored out of my mind. I mean, sure, I feel like it's kind of game that you play the. Sure, it's atmospheric, and I'm sure they'll add more interesting gameplay elements as time goes by. But like just watching that gameplay trailer, I was just bored out of my mind. I got nothing else to really say because I'm like you said, nothing really happened, and I'm just sitting there like, okay, that's uh, that's a few minutes of my life I'll never get back.
I
But
will
yeah,
I do agree with you. It's like it's one of those things where it's like some people are gonna go, oh, like nothing happened, that's awesome, or like nothing happened, this is bullshit. Like I do get that mentality, and it's totally understandable. I do feel like maybe they could have showed off a couple more features in the gameplay other than just floating around.
yeah,
Especially the one thing that did kind of annoy me though in the gameplay trailer is that there are all these oxygen tanks that they could pick up and use, and it seemed like he was purposely avoiding some of them. And I was like, "What are you doing? Fill that shit up to max." But anyway, I don't know. I think it'd be kind of a cool game. I'll have more of an opinion on it once I see more gameplay of it, because right now it's just floating in space. So we'll have to see where it goes from there. But moving on from that, we've got a bunch of Mortal Kombat X news. So let's go right through it. We've got a couple characters announced. We got Jason Voorhees, Shinnok, Kenshi, and the Cage family. So let's start with Jason Voorhees. So I guess that was a natural decision, because they had Freddy in the last game. So Jason.
That's true. I didn't even think about that connection. Yeah.
Although I have a friend who says, dude, the freaking Predator needs to be in this game. Like, come on, guys. Like,
yeah, I'm just gonna. I don't like guest characters in general. I don't. Because now, okay, the roster is pretty much done at this point, and there's a bunch of characters, there's a bunch of fan favorite Mortal Kombat characters that aren't going to make it. There's no Cyborg, like Cyrax, Sector, or Smoke. It's not looking like either of them is going to make it in. It's not looking like Liu Kang is going to make it in. And here we're giving up a roster space for a character that has no relation to Mortal Kombat. In general, I hate guest characters. I hated when Scorpion was announced as a character for Injustice. I hated when Darth Vader and Yoda were announced as guest characters for Soul Calibur 4, and I absolutely I'm not. I don't like this at all. The rest of the roster is okay. Shinnok was pretty obvious, because he, spoiler alerts, he appears at the end of Mortal Kombat 9 story mode, talking about how, everything is going according to plan. So I was pretty certain Shinnok was going to be in the game. Kenshi, Sonya, and Johnny Cage are weird.
Really? You think that they're weird?
Yeah, here's my reason why, though. Because they introduced Cassie Cage. They introduced I forget, Takashi Takada or some shit like that. He's a descendant of Kenshi. So I'm like, they introduced descendants of these characters. So why then are they now introducing these characters? Like, I thought the fact that Cassie Cage was announced would mean that Johnny or Sonya wouldn't be in the game. And I thought the fact that Takashi was announced meant that Kenshi wouldn't be in the game, but I guess I was wrong.
Well, the one thing I will have to say, though, is that Cage family trailer was freaking awesome. Like, I was pretty awesome. Yeah, I was like so happy. It was like, yeah, we got Johnny Cage, and he's like this bitter old father who's like pissed off at his ex-wife. And it's like this this odd family like dynamic that they've got, and it's like, oh, I loved it. And I was super happy to see Sonya Blade is actually part of the roster, because you and I were debating whether or not she was actually going to be in the game or not, but I'm really happy.
I didn't think she'd be in it.
But I'm really happy that she is, and I love that fatality at the end.
I was just about to say.
Yeah, like, just here's Johnny. Just that was fantastic. So I was really happy to see them, to say the least. But I do agree with you as far as the Jason guest star stuff. It's like, yeah, I do kind of wish that maybe they should have just used that space for someone else. But yeah.
But no, you're right. I mean, I was surprised, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense that Johnny and all these guys. Plus, I mean, from a gameplay point of view, Cassie was a descendant of these characters, but she didn't have their move list. She didn't have their moves. So people that played that played Johnny or Sonya in the last game, if those guys weren't in this game, they'd come in here and there'd be no one that had that move list. So it makes sense that that they're in the game. But yeah. Okay. Moving on. Apparently the last gen version. I guess it's last gen now, right?
Yeah. Technically.
Yeah, the last gen version of the games have been delayed. How do you feel about this?
I don't know. It feels kind of weird to a certain extent. I mean, it makes kind of sense because obviously they want to put more effort and time into the PS4 and the Xbox One version because that's the one that has to look the prettiest. Because
Yeah.
if it's like for example, like if the PS4 version is identical to the PS3 version, then people are going to be like, "What the fuck, guys? Like, what's the point?" So
Yeah.
that I can understand, but it is kind of weird that usually doesn't happen that way. Like usually the crappier version of the game usually is the one that comes out first. Like I don't know. So it is kind of weird that the PS3 and the Xbox 360 versions are being delayed. But to be honest, it's like this. I know that I've said this a million times, but honestly, I want the PS4 versions and the Xbox One versions to come out first because it's the only way we're going to get people to start buying games for the next generation when people are
Yeah.
still buying like I said when people are still releasing their games for all like generations like PS3,
Yeah.
Xbox 360, PS4 and Xbox One. Everyone's just gonna buy the 360 and the PS3 version because we're all cheap bastards and we want to save money. So that's the mentality. So I honestly I was kind of like, okay, you know what, this is kind of a good thing, kind of a bad thing. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
Honestly, I mean, on one hand, I was gonna, because I don't own a next gen console yet, so
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna pick it up for the for my PS3.
Mm-hmm.
But now that it's been delayed a little bit, I like it. I like it because I think like you say, even though I don't own a next gen console, I want to have a reason to own a next gen console. There
Exactly.
just isn't one for me right now. So honestly, I wouldn't have even minded if the current gen versions were just straight up canceled. I I want developers to start moving on because like until y'all move on, I'm not going to move on. Like if you keep releasing games for current gen consoles, I am just never going to buy a next gen console.
Yeah.
Real talk, because so yeah. Real quick. Sorry, this just came up.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I just saw the headline right now. So apparently they announced the achievements for this game, Mortal Kombat X, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the images for the achievements, a couple more characters have been displayed.
Oh, okay.
So Aaron Black is in a couple of the images for the achievements. So
Mm-hmm.
it's looking like he's going to be playable. Yay!
Yeah.
But Jax is also in an image for another
Hmm.
achievement. And this doesn't necessarily confirm that they'll be playable. They could just be like playable in one story mission or something like that.
Yeah.
But with Aaron Black, I'm pretty sure he's going to be playable. Jax is still a little bit up in the air. But yeah, I just saw that now, so I figured I'd share that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it actually comes to a point like you and I discussed before is that now since it's getting so close to the actual release date, now they're just dumping all of the characters as much as they can because it's like, oh shit, we ran out of time. Time to announce everyone.
Oh my god! Like this game has to have had one of the weirdest pre-release whatever
Yeah.
you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Because like we went like 4 months characters announced, and then in 1 month they announced like half the cast, and then the next month they announced the other half of the cast. So
It's like,
it is it is
jeez.
ridiculous. But yeah, overall, I'm a little disappointed because I won't be able to buy MKX for my PS3. But
Hmm.
on the flip side, I think it's probably for the best because I can I'll probably just wait and buy it for my PS4 now. So it's one more
Yeah.
game I'll be able to play when I eventually buy a PS4 or an Xbox One or
Hmm.
both. If I hit the lottery. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, like it's just more reasons to get the new generation, and honestly, we need a lot more reasons at this point.
You
But
need a lot
moving
more
on from
reasons.
that, actually speaking of another specifically next generation game, Witcher 3 had some gameplay at PAX East. And it showed off Geralt of Rivia, just exploring the land and hunting a wyvern. So from what they've shown, since I've actually have a little more experience with the Witcher games because I played a bunch of Witcher 2. So what did you think of what they've shown so far?
Well, the gameplay got 2 thumbs down from me because there was no tits in the game, like straight up.
Fair
I'm kidding.
enough.
I'm
Fair
kidding.
enough. Game of
It
Thrones.
looks really good. It looks really good. The combat. I mean, first of all, I just want to comment on the combat. The combat looked really fluid. Because the thing with a lot of RPGs is that the combat in them is usually very clunky. I mean, I love Skyrim, but the
Mm.
combat. No one is gonna play Skyrim for the combat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the combat in this game looked really smooth and really fluid, and I enjoyed it.
Hmm.
Truth be told, I haven't kept much of an eye on The Witcher, but I'm gonna start keeping more of an eye on it now, and maybe this will be another next gen title that I'll pick up whenever I pick up my next gen console. Yeah.
Hmm. Like from what I played in The Witcher 2, it seems like they're expanding it to way bigger proportions because Witcher 2 was mostly linear. Like you couldn't really
Okay.
revisit a whole lot of places. You could kind of revisit places. It was kind of like the level of the open world was like Mass Effect levels. Like you could revisit certain planets, but there were certain areas that you would not be able to revisit, and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah. And it was really interesting. Unfortunately, I never beat Witcher 2 because my PC couldn't handle it and it would just crash constantly. So that's one. I think that's one particular reason to get the PS4 version of Witcher 3 is that it won't crash your goddamn PC.
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay, well,
well, like from what I've seen, I think the gameplay looks a lot smoother. I like the fact that it's open world now because it makes. I think this is the kind of game that it makes a lot of sense to make it big and expansive and stuff like that.
yeah,
So and
yeah.
obviously I like the
Really
idea of
surprised you told me though.
monster hunting. So yes.
Of course.
But yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was like, nothing. You're moving on. Nothing
Yeah.
of substance.
All
So
right.
yeah,
So
moving
next,
on
yeah, moving
to
on. We actually got a couple characters announced for Overwatch. We got McCree, who was kind of like the man with no name, kind of Western guy, and Zyra, who's his
yeah.
big, bulky Russian weight presser, kind of tank character. So from what they've shown of these
Yeah.
characters, what do you think, Fawaz?
Okay, so when Blizzard announced Zarya,
Hmm.
they were like that she was created as because a lot of people were complaining about how all they wanted more diversity in the women, because all
Hmm.
the women were really small and all that stuff. So they're
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. They created her as an answer for that, to add a little more diversity. I just found it funny that Blizzard was countering stereotypes with a stereotype. Because when she was first announced, I was like, "Don't tell me she's Russian." And then I click and she's Russian, and then I'm like, really, guys? With that said, I love her design.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I actually do love. I just found it so funny that she was Russian.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
like,
it's
yeah.
because even just as a quick aside, even Evolve, they were one of the assaults because people were complaining that none of the assaults were women, and they were like that. Yeah, they actually had this one assault woman who, guess what, was also Russian,
Yeah,
but it didn't really work out. But
yeah.
anyway, I like her gameplay. She looks really cool. And I actually do really like her design. Forget all the
Hmm.
diversity and all of that. Just like purely from a from a design point of view, I
Hmm.
love it. It's cool. And this is one yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
I
all I
like
got
I
to say.
like that she's a lot bulkier, and it is kind of I do agree with that. Is that a lot of the girls in Overwatch right now are very they're very thin. Their chests are a little bit larger. So I do like the fact that she's a little bit more bulkier than most of the cast, and I do like that. And I also I like her mechanics as well because
Yeah.
she's got shields. She's got like a gravity purge thing
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, that
really
looked really
interesting. And she's got a really cool laser gun. You know, can't go wrong with more lasers. But
Yeah.
but yeah, and honestly, I think she was a lot more interesting than McCree
Yeah.
because McCree is like I don't, I'm not against McCree like too much, but he's got like a freaking Western pistol. And even when I was watching gameplay footage of people playing McCree, and they half of them just ran out and got completely wrecked because it's like Western pistol versus bazooka, which is gonna win? Gee, I wonder.
Yeah, yeah. McCree just looks a little boring compared to a lot of the characters on the cast right now.
Mhm.
But just real quick, actually, I wanted to just give Blizzard credit in general because even before they announced Zarya, the cast did have there was a lot of variety and a lot of the
Mhm.
female characters. Sure, they were all pixies, they were all really
Yeah, yeah,
small,
yeah,
but they weren't. I mean, first of all, they weren't scantily clad, so I mean, you get credit. I mean, these are
yeah,
dudes who made World of Warcraft, so
yeah,
you
yeah.
get
So
credit
they
for
get
that right
credit for
out the
that.
gate.
Yeah.
um, but there was a lot of variety. Like one of them was there was one that was Egyptian. There was a lot of nation variety. The one was Egyptian, one was Indian. There was
Mhm.
a couple of Americans. There was some Brits there, and not
Yeah.
just the women, just the characters in general. Like a
Mhm.
lot of developers often forget that there's other countries besides America.
Yeah.
So I give them credit for that as well. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. McCree. I didn't even finish watching his gameplay trailer because he was just boring by comparison.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because especially since he seems like he's meant to be like a fast gunslinger, but to be honest, like, why wouldn't you just pick Tracer? Because Tracer's looks way faster and way more efficient. So,
She's the one with the rewind
yeah,
mechanic, right?
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So he's just yeah, I wasn't
yeah,
impressed. But what are your feelings on Overwatch in general? Because we've never touched
yeah.
on this game on our show before. How do you feel about it?
Well, I think we talked about it a little bit a long, long time ago, but basically, I think it's going to be interesting. It definitely, I feel like it has a lot of esports potential.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that I guess, a little bit concerned with is that, it has a huge list of characters to choose from. And when you think of like games like Team Fortress 2, for example, you have like specifically 9 characters. And I think this game is
Yeah.
going, I think it's got at this point about maybe 13 characters or around that. So if they keep on adding more and more characters to the roster, then it's going to be like, well, how are you going to balance this out? Like, are you going to have to like patch it every couple of weeks, like League is doing right now, or stuff like that? So that's my only concern with the huge roster, is that the bigger and bigger it gets, the harder and harder it's going to be to balance. Especially since right now, I think Tracer is super, super good from what I've seen. And that's why it's like there's a lot of tracers on, like, in a lot of the gameplay footage, because it's like there's got to be a tracer on your team because she's just really good and has an overall really good kit. So I'm interested to see how later on, when the game is officially released, which will not be anytime soon.
Yeah.
Apparently it's probably going to be next year at the earliest. So
Yeah, probably.
um, so I'm interested how that huge roster is going to affect it. But what do you think so far?
Uh, yeah, I actually, when the game was first announced, yeah, I was thinking Team Fortress 2, but as time has gone by, I'm actually thinking they're going more in the direction of League with this game.
Hmm.
So, yeah, where they're gonna have a really really big cast of characters, and they're gonna keep introducing new heroes as
Hmm.
time goes by. Which makes me kind of sad because I was hoping I prefer Team Fortress 2's um system.
Hmm.
But overall, it looks. I mean, it's Blizzard's first FPS, so I'm intrigued right out the gate,
Hmm.
and it's very interesting. I'll give it that. I still need to see a little more. I watched some gameplay when it was first announced at BlizzCon,
Hmm.
and it's there was the force feedback from the weapons. The weapons just didn't have much meat to them.
Hmm. Yeah.
I haven't watched much gameplay since, I watched a few clips when the new characters were announced, but I haven't watched like straight up matches ever since BlizzCon. So that's probably been tweaked.
Hmm.
But I'm intrigued. I'm still holding out hope that it comes to consoles
Hmm.
because it's one of the only Blizzard games that would actually just work consoles. Because like
Hmm.
Warcraft can't work on StarCraft can't work on console.
No.
Um, Diablo is a little less efficient on consoles, but this is a straight up FPS. So,
Yeah.
consoles all
Yeah.
day. um,
Plus,
yeah.
plus, a lot of people when they're playing first-person shooters, some people really prefer having the controller. I'm one of those guys where it's like if I had the choice between doing a mouse or a controller for a shooter, I would rather have the controller, like almost always. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think if that this would probably be one of the games that they could probably port to consoles, no problem. But it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see where this game goes in the future. Definitely, we'll be keeping our eyes on it for sure. And finally, our last piece of news is Uncharted 4 got delayed till spring 2016. So what does this mean for
Oof.
Sony's holiday this year? What do you think, Fawaz?
Well, it's not good. I'll say
Nope.
that much. I mean, Sony probably has some games that they haven't announced yet that are going to be like they're probably going to announce something for this holiday at E3. What
Mm-hmm.
worries me is that what because last year what happened was people thought the Order was going to be their fall game. The Order got delayed till February, and then they announced Little Big Planet 3 at E3. Little Big
Yeah.
Planet 3 came out and it was mediocre
Yeah.
beyond description. So
Yeah.
hopefully that is not going to be the same case for whatever title it is that they announce at E3
Mm-hmm.
this year. But I do think Sony needs to be careful though. They've got a really huge lead on Microsoft, but Halo 5 is coming out this holiday season.
Yeah.
If Microsoft drops Halo 5 and Sony doesn't have anything, it's like Microsoft could really start closing that gap. And
Mm-hmm.
as like it's a very momentum based industry, like once people start thinking once Microsoft if Microsoft gets the momentum, things could start looking really really
Yeah.
hairy for Sony. But I mean, for me, it's I mean, I didn't care either. I don't care either way personally. I was never going to buy this game,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm indifferent. It only affects me negatively in the sense that I'm going to have to listen. I'm going to have to listen to Uncharted news for like 3 more months, as opposed to it coming out in Christmas and me never having to hear about it again.
uh,
But yeah, how do you feel?
Well, I mean, like it does for me. It does kind of suck that it's being delayed till 2016. But honestly, I'm kind of with you. Even as me as the Uncharted fan, I'm very. This is probably the one Uncharted I'm the least excited for because it looks so much like Uncharted One from what they've shown at the very least. So it's kind of like I was a little bit disappointed in that, but I'm also interested how Sony is going to react to this because yeah, I do agree with you. If Microsoft gets the momentum, they release Halo 5 and some other games during the fourth quarter that are really good, then it could cause problems because then who are still deciding on which console they want to get, then it's going to really affect which ones they end up deciding on. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I do agree with you that with Uncharted 4 being moved out of the fourth quarter of this year, it is going to affect a lot of different how Sony treats the fourth quarter. Because yeah, they've got to announce something at E3 this year, or
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
boned. So,
And something that isn't Drive Club or
uh,
Little Big Planet 3.
yeah, let's try for something at least creative and not broken.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do give Naughty Dog credit though. It's after paying $20 for Helldivers and the game still isn't working.
Hmm.
I do give them credit for delaying this game because it's like you miss out on the holiday. You're missing out on the holiday sales. Like, but I always give a developer credit for delaying the game as opposed to releasing a broken game, especially in this current climate that we exist in, where almost every other game gets released broken.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed
Yeah,
Unity being
Assassin.
yeah, the poster child for broken games, Assassin's Creed Unity. That's what I.
Oh my god. But
Beautiful.
yeah, it's
God. Well, let's just hope that Sony does bring something for the fourth quarter. But on that note, I think we're gonna have to end it here. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And if you leave a comment in the comment section, we'll answer it in the next podcast. And as always, this was William Liberty, and
Boaz Muhammad Yusuf.
And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.